Did you know that silence can be one of the greatest forms of wisdom? There comes a time in life when the world becomes quieter. Not because there's nothing left to say, but because you finally understand that not everything needs to be said. As we grow older, the expectations we carried for decades begin to fall away. The need for validation, the urge to fix others, the endless responsibilities, they all lose their grip on us. And in this newfound space, we are left with a powerful question: what about me? For years, you have given your time, your energy, your love. You have built a life, raised a family, nurtured friendships, and contributed to society. But now, the focus shifts. The world moves forward, and the people you once prioritized are walking their own paths. This is not a loss. It is a transformation. It is an opportunity to finally turn inward, to embrace the peace of being your own greatest companion, and to find joy without needing permission. In old age, staying silent and living for yourself is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of wisdom. Let's explore why this is the most important time to shift your focus back to yourself and how doing so can bring the peace and happiness you truly deserve. 1. The power of silence. Not every thought needs a voice. There is a profound wisdom that comes with age, the realization that not every thought needs to be spoken, and not every opinion needs to be heard. When we are young, we feel an overwhelming need to express ourselves. We explain, defend, and argue, believing that the right words, spoken at the right time, will make others understand. We exhaust ourselves trying to correct misunderstandings, trying to convince people of our perspectives, trying to make others see what we see. But with time, we learn a quiet truth. Most people do not listen to understand. They listen to respond. This understanding changes everything. You no longer feel the need to correct every misperception or explain your choices to those who have already made up their minds. You no longer chase after conversations that lead nowhere, nor do you waste energy on those who are not truly listening. Instead, you begin to value silence, not as an absence of words, but as a presence of peace. Silence does not mean disengagement, nor does it mean weakness. It is a form of wisdom, a sign of someone who has lived long enough to know that not every battle is worth fighting. There was a time when you may have raised your voice to be heard, but now you understand that some things are better left unsaid. Not because they do not matter, but because your peace matters more. When you stop feeling the need to explain yourself to others, you gain something far greater: clarity. You begin to see people as they are, rather than as you wish them to be. You recognize that understanding cannot be forced. It must be chosen. And if someone is unwilling to see beyond their own perspective, no amount of explanation will change that. With this acceptance comes freedom. You no longer enter conversations hoping to change minds. You no longer feel obligated to defend your beliefs, your choices, or your past. You understand that wisdom is not measured by how many people agree with you, but by how much peace you have within yourself. Silence is also a gift to yourself. It allows you to listen, not just to the world around you, but to the voice within. When you stop filling the space with unnecessary words, you make room for deeper thoughts, for genuine reflection, for a kind of stillness that brings clarity. In that stillness, you find the answers you once sought from others. With age comes a beautiful truth. You do not need to explain, justify, or seek validation. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. The only person who truly needs to understand you is you. And in that understanding, you will find a peace that no conversation could ever bring. 2. Stop waiting. No one is coming to save you. There is a quiet moment in life when you realize that no one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to show up and make everything right. The people you spent your life taking care of, your children, your family, your friends, are now caught up in their own worlds, just as you once were. The gratitude you expected, the appreciation you thought was inevitable, may never come in the way you imagined. And the longer you wait for it, the more you allow yourself to live in disappointment rather than in the present. At some point, you must ask yourself, how much of your life have you spent waiting? Waiting for someone to notice your sacrifices, waiting for an apology that never arrives, waiting for people to return the same love and care you once gave so freely. It is a painful truth, but also a liberating one, because once you stop waiting, you can finally start living. The world does not pause to acknowledge all that you have given. It keeps moving forward, and so must you. That does not mean you were wrong to give, nor does it mean that your love and efforts were wasted. It simply means that you cannot build your happiness around the expectation of reciprocity. If you do, you will always be at the mercy of others, measuring your worth by how much they remember, by how often they call, by whether they show up when you need them. But the truth is, your worth has never depended on anyone else. You do not need validation to justify the life you have lived. You do not need anyone to come and tell you that you mattered. You already did. You were already enough. And now, more than ever, it is time to live for yourself. It is easy to feel abandoned, to fall into the trap of believing that the world has forgotten you. But you are not forgotten. You are simply in a different season of life, one where the focus must shift inward rather than outward. This is your time, not to wait for something outside of you to bring you joy, but to create that joy for yourself. You have spent a lifetime giving, but now you must learn to receive. Receive the quiet moments of peace, the simple pleasures of a day with no obligations. Receive the beauty of solitude, the chance to do the things you never had time for. Receive the knowledge that you are free from the burdens you once carried, free to wake up each morning and ask yourself, not what does the world need from me, but what do I need from myself? There is nothing selfish about choosing yourself. There is nothing wrong with letting go of expectations that only bring you pain. Life is not waiting for you to be acknowledged. It is waiting for you to embrace it fully and unapologetically. So stop waiting. No one is coming to save you because you were never meant to be saved. You were meant to discover that everything you were searching for was within you all along. 3. Emotional independence. Finding joy in your own company. There comes a time in life when you must learn to stand alone, not out of loneliness, but out of the understanding that your happiness cannot depend on anyone else. For decades, you've been surrounded by people. Your identity was shaped by the roles you played: a parent, a spouse, a provider, a friend. You were needed, depended on, and often defined by how much you gave to others. But as the years pass, those roles begin to fade. Children grow up and build lives of their own. Friends become distant, some by choice, others by time. The house that was once filled with noise and activity grows quieter. And in that silence, a question emerges. Who am I when no one needs me anymore? It is in this space that many people feel lost, mistaking solitude for loneliness. But loneliness is an emptiness, a longing for someone to fill the silence. Solitude, on the other hand, is a choice. It is the decision to embrace your own company, to recognize that you are enough just as you are. It is the ability to find joy, not because someone else has provided it, but because you have learned to create it within yourself. This is not always an easy transition. For years, your happiness may have been tied to the presence of others, the laughter of family gatherings, the companionship of a partner, the simple reassurance of having people around. But life moves forward, and if your peace is dependent on the constant presence of others, You will always feel at risk of losing it. True freedom comes when you realize that you can be whole on your own. Finding joy in your own company is not about pushing others away. It is about learning that your well being does not need to be placed in someone else's hands. It is about discovering what makes your soul feel alive, independent of anyone else's presence or approval. What is it that brings you happiness? Not what once brought you happiness through others, but what brings you joy now in this stage of life, with no one else to define it for you. Maybe it's the quiet rhythm of a morning routine, the beauty of a book that transports you to another world, the satisfaction of creating something with your hands. Maybe it's walking in nature, feeling the sun on your skin, breathing in the air with no agenda, no obligations, just the simple pleasure of being. When you begin to embrace your own company, you stop waiting for someone to come and make life feel meaningful again. You stop measuring your days by how many phone calls you receive or how often someone visits. You stop feeling forgotten and start feeling free. You are no longer waiting for others to validate your existence. Instead, you are fully present in your own life, engaged in the things that bring you peace. You spent a lifetime giving to others. Now, it is time to give that same love and attention to yourself. You do not need an invitation to enjoy your own life. You do not need permission to embrace what makes you happy. You are not missing anything. You are simply in a new chapter. One where your own company is not something to endure, but something to celebrate. And when you finally find joy within yourself, you realize that you were never alone to begin with. 4. Setting boundaries. You no longer owe anyone an explanation. There comes a time in life when you realize that you have spent years, perhaps decades, meeting the expectations of others. You have been the dependable one, the caregiver, the provider, the person everyone turned to in times of need. Your days were filled with obligations, some spoken, some unspoken, and you carried them without question because that is what was expected of you. But now, in this stage of life, something within you has shifted. The weight of constant responsibility no longer feels like an honor. It feels like a burden. And yet, the idea of saying no, of putting yourself first, still feels foreign, as if you are betraying the very identity you have spent a lifetime building. But here is a truth that too many people realize too late. You are not obligated to be everything for everyone. You do not have to say yes simply because it is what you have always done. You do not have to stretch yourself thin to keep the peace. You do not have to explain yourself to those who expect you to give endlessly, without question, without limits. At this stage in life, you owe no one an explanation for why you choose to protect your time, your energy, and your peace. Setting boundaries is not about shutting people out. It is about choosing where your energy goes. It is recognizing that your time is no longer limitless, that your emotional well being is not something to be bartered away for the sake of duty or obligation. It is about understanding that just because you once said yes does not mean you must keep saying yes forever. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to decide that you no longer wish to give beyond what you have the capacity to offer. The hardest part of setting boundaries is not saying no, it is dealing with the guilt that follows. You worry about disappointing others, about being seen as unkind, about breaking the cycle of expectation that has defined so much of your life. But the people who truly value you will understand. They will respect the space you need, the choices you make, and the limitations you set. And those who do not, those who only valued you for what you could give them, will pull away. Let them. It is not your job to make everyone else comfortable at the expense of your own well being. You are not here to accommodate every request, to solve every problem, to be the foundation upon which everyone else stands while your own needs go ignored. You are not selfish for prioritizing yourself. You are simply acknowledging that you too deserve care, respect, and the right to decide how your time and energy are spent. No one else is going to protect your peace for you. No one else is going to remind you that you are worthy of rest, of solitude, of saying no without guilt. That responsibility is yours alone. And the moment you embrace it, the moment you stop explaining yourself, stop justifying your choices, stop seeking permission to put yourself first, you will find a freedom you never knew was possible. You do not need to explain why you no longer wish to be the person others rely on at the cost of your own happiness. You do not need to justify the decisions you make to protect your emotional and physical well being. You do not need to apologize for choosing yourself after years of choosing everyone else. This is your time, and you have earned the right to live it on your own terms. 5. Physical and mental health. Prioritize your well being now. Your body and mind have carried you through decades of life, through hard work, through sacrifice, through the relentless demands of others. You have spent years putting yourself second, believing that your health could wait, that your well being was less important than the needs of those around you. But time has a way of revealing the truth. Neglect catches up with you, and the care you postpone eventually becomes the care you desperately need. Aging is inevitable, but decline is not. Much of what people assume is simply getting old is actually the result of years of neglect. Stiff joints, aching muscles, fading energy. These are not just signs of age, they are signs of a body that has been put last for too long. But the good news is, no matter how many years have passed, it is never too late to start prioritizing yourself. Movement is not just for the young. It is for anyone who wishes to keep their independence. You do not need to run marathons or lift heavy weights, but you do need to move, walk, stretch, keep your muscles engaged. Your body is not asking to be young again. It is simply asking to be cared for. When you stop moving, you stop living. The simplest daily habits, standing, reaching, bending, become harder not because of age, but because of inactivity. The body you wake up with tomorrow will be determined by how you treat it today. But well-being is not only about the body, the mind too requires care. Too many people reach old age and let their world become small. They stop learning, stop engaging, stop being curious. They retreat into the comfort of routine, filling their days with television, old regrets, and memories of the past. But the mind is like a muscle. What you do with it determines how strong it remains. You must challenge it. Read books that make you think. Have conversations that inspire you. Learn something new, even if no one expects you to. Curiosity does not expire with age. Growth is not reserved for the young. The world is still full of things you have yet to discover, and your mind is still capable of expansion. The moment you stop feeding it, it begins to shrink. Emotional health is just as important. Worry, resentment, and regret will age you faster than time ever could. If you fill your mind with negativity, that is what will take root. If you dwell on past disappointments, they will define your future. But if you fill your thoughts with gratitude, with curiosity, with appreciation for the life you still have, your mind will remain vibrant. Taking care of yourself is not a luxury. It is a necessity. You spent years taking care of others. Now, it is time to take care of you. There is no reward for self-neglect. No one will hand you back the years you spent sacrificing your well-being for the sake of responsibility. The only way to claim those years is to start now. Your body, your mind, and your spirit deserve your attention. Not because you are afraid of aging, but because you deserve to live well for as long as you possibly can. 6. Letting go and forgiving. Free yourself from the weight of the past. There comes a moment in life when you realize that carrying the past does nothing but weigh you down. The hurts you have suffered, the betrayals you did not deserve, the words that were never spoken, and the apologies that never came. These things linger like heavy stones in your heart. You replay old conversations in your mind, questioning how things could have been different, wondering if you should have done more, said more, been more. But the past does not change. No matter how much you revisit it, no matter how tightly you hold on, it remains as it was. The only thing that can change is your willingness to let it go. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. People think that to forgive means to excuse, to forget, to erase what has happened. But forgiveness is not about rewriting history. It is not about pretending that pain did not happen or that wrongdoing does not matter. Forgiveness is about choosing peace over bitterness. It is about recognizing that holding on to resentment does not hurt those who have wronged you. It only hurts you. It poisons your present with anger. It clouds your future with regret. And it keeps you tied to something that no longer serves you. Some wounds will never be acknowledged by the ones who caused them. Some people will never say the words you deserve to hear. Some wrongs will never be made right. And waiting for those things to happen only prolongs your suffering. The truth is, you do not need closure from anyone but yourself. The past does not need to be fixed for you to move forward. You can decide today that you are finished carrying it, not because it didn't matter, but because your peace matters more. Letting go is an act of self-liberation. It is understanding that you do not have to hold on to every disappointment, every unspoken apology, every moment that did not go the way you wished. It is choosing to release the weight that keeps you stuck, that keeps you living in a story that has already ended. You do not have to keep reopening old wounds just to remind yourself they are there. You can choose instead to heal. But perhaps the hardest part of letting go is forgiving yourself. The mistakes you made, the choices you regret, the moments you wish you could rewrite, these things linger, whispering that you should have done better, that you should have known more. But you must remember this: you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. You were learning just like everyone else. Regret does not change the past, but it can steal your future if you let it. You cannot move forward while gripping tightly to what is behind you. You cannot find peace while carrying the weight of every hurt, every mistake, every moment that did not go as planned. At some point, you must choose to free yourself, not because what happened was right, but because you deserve to live without the burden of it. Is not giving up. It is not weakness. It is the strongest, most courageous thing you can do. It is deciding once and for all that your future is more important than your past, that your peace is worth more than your pain, and that you will no longer let what was define what will be. You are not your mistakes. You are not your losses. You are not the things that have hurt you. You are what you choose to become next, and you have the power to choose freedom. Final thoughts. Live without apology. There comes a time in life when you must stop seeking permission to exist on your own terms. For too long, you have shaped yourself around the needs of others, fulfilling roles, meeting expectations, sacrificing parts of yourself to keep the world around you running smoothly. You have spent years proving your worth through hard work, through love, through selflessness. And yet, now as the years stretch before you, you realize something. No matter how much you gave, the world kept moving. People changed. Circumstances shifted. The things you once poured yourself into no longer require you in the same way. And so the question remains, who are you now? when the world no longer demands so much of you. This is the moment when many feel lost, waiting for someone to tell them what comes next. But there is no more waiting. The truth is, you do not need anyone to give you permission to live fully. You do not need approval to set boundaries, to prioritize your happiness, to walk away from obligations that no longer serve you. You do not have to explain why you are choosing peace, why you no longer chase old conflicts, why you no longer participate in conversations that drain you. You have nothing left to prove. You have already lived, already given, already built a life that speaks for itself. And now, finally, you can live for yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of the understanding that your time, your energy, and your spirit are yours to nurture. People may not understand your transformation. They may question why you have changed, why you no longer give as freely, why you have stopped waiting for their validation. But their understanding is not required. You do not owe the world an explanation for choosing to live in a way that brings you peace. The ones who truly care for you will respect your choices. The ones who do not were never truly seeing you. They were only seeing what you could offer them. Let go of the idea that you must always be available, always accommodating, always putting yourself last. Let go of the guilt that tells you your worth is measured by how much you sacrifice. You are not here to be everything for everyone. You are here to experience life, not through obligation, but through joy. Find pleasure in the small things. Wake up without the weight of unnecessary burdens. Care for your body not out of fear of aging, but out of respect for the life still left to live. Nurture your mind, not because you must prove your relevance, but because curiosity and growth make each day richer. Surround yourself with peace. Let go of what no longer serves you. Speak only when your words add meaning. And when silence brings you more comfort than speaking, embrace it. You have waited long enough. This is your time. Not to ask for permission, not to seek validation, but to fully embrace the life that is still yours. Live without apology. Live without regret. Live fully and completely for yourself. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching. And here's to living life on your own terms.